Yeah, is it okay? My screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. வாழ்க வளமுடன், வாழ்க வையகம். Thanking our Guru, Marishi, Vedatri Marishi, and then our president and all other good souls who helped us to meet on this day and discuss on this research topic. I would also like to thank other professors, Dr. M.V.R. Ayya, Guru Ayya, and Dr. Balasubramanian from Sri Lanka and other professors for helping me to understand the subject and then trying to link it with the plasma as an approach. In this, so I planned this session in 3 parts. One is, first we need to understand the poems written by Maharishi for us on Kayakalpa, and then his explanation on Kayakalpa on the book, and then the scientific interpretation on this, and then getting into the plasma approach as the third part. So we'll start with the understanding of poems of Maharishi on Kayakalpa. So in this, I have given the poem. So I don't know whether it was available in English, but I could see from the Tamil literature, and then I tried to translate it as much as possible with the simple wordings. So please forgive me if any mistake is there. It's not from the poem, but it may be from the translation, if any. So in the first song, so I kept it in the year wise, starting from 83. So there were many Kayakalpam poems. So Kayakalpam is a divine boon for the people who are willingly taking the ascetic life. And the two from young ages and who are doing service, it is a divine boon. So that's what he's saying in the first 2 lines. And any disease or body or the shortfalls will be removed like removing of weeds. So that is another line which is enlightening us on Kayakalpa. Knowing inner self and darkness like ego are simply removed. Knowing inner self and rising on intelligence are motivated. Wanderers are led towards the divinely path of life, and all bad deeds are purified at the genetic center. தூய்மை செய்யும் கருமையத்தில். So this is what he tries to explain. So these words are calling for a big research that whether can we do a purification at the genetic center. And first of all, what is genetic center? So it is the first concept. I think Maharishi has coined this concept, and which overtakes almost all the concepts, and he is able to give us very clear indication of what is life and how we have to take that life and what we are going to do in life, things like that. So if we touch the genetic center, that itself is a very big point of research. And that too, he goes one step ahead, saying that we can go for purification of this genetic center. So that is really very somewhat motivating us, anybody to talk about this Kayakalpa. Then the next part is the pride of vital fluid. Based on the pressure inherited by the vital force purity, the nature of body is the result of mind. So based on the pressure inherited by the vital force purity, so the purity comes here. And then the nature of body is the result of mind. So without knowing the pride of vital fluid, crossing the prescribed limits and spending the vital fluid in futile, thus causing loss of life force. Crossing the prescribed limits and spending the vital fluid in futile, thus causing loss of life force. So resultant of deeds will result in the formation of diseases. That is very important point. So such things, if we are losing it, so it is going to result in the formation of diseases. Vital fluid, life force, biomagnetism, mind and body. All these 5 elements should be guarded with the knowledge of cause and effect. So this we should know very clearly. விளைவறிந்து விழிப்போடு காத்தல் வேண்டும். So all these 5 elements, vital fluid, life force, biomagnetism, mind and body, all these 5 elements should be guarded with the knowledge of cause and effect. Now, benefits of Kayakalpam. So this was written in 83. So the song number is 1506. So the poem says like this: raising the sexual vital fluid above and keeping the mind in the state of Duriya meditation is the practice of yoga. So raising the SVF, sexual vital fluid, above and keeping the mind in a state of Duriya meditation is the practice of yoga. Giving the sexual vital fluid a meditation and the Aswini yoga exercise. So giving the SVF both, you have to give both. So meditation as well as the Aswini yoga exercise. So here he is very clear what you have to do. Sukkilathirku davam kudathu payirchi கூட்டி. So that means giving the SVF, both meditation and Aswini yoga will give the real effort. So the effect, if you want to see, you have to do both. So that too, doing it before the sleep, pleasure and food. So that is how he defines it in the poem. So sexual vital fluid will get solidified, raising the fertility. So we'll be free from troublesome diseases and will protect the youthfulness. Life force and biomagnetism will increase with sexual vital fluid. The secret art is Kayakalpam. So this secret art is called Kayakalpam. So the life force and biomagnetism will increase with the sexual vital fluid. Sukshmamam ikkalaye Kayakalpam. Sukkilathodu uyir Sivagandham mikkum. So that is how he is explaining. Then benefits of Kayakalpam, again in 83. So the poem number 1507. So eyesight will be improved by doing Kayakalpam exercise. Okay, so eyesight is increased. So eyesight will be improved by doing Kayakalpam exercise. High or low libido will be leveled. Kayakalpam will bring in happiness, love, affection will be improved. Dutifulness and divine thoughts will be on the rise. Kayakalpam will remove piles, intestinal ulcers like obesity, body lean will be leveled. Kayakalpam will protect the body by removing heart diseases, blood, constipation related diseases. So that is how he is listing the benefits of Kayakalpam, particularly from medical point of view. And in the same series continued in 83. So this poem says, will remove the bad imprints and solidify the vital fluid. Kayakalpam will eradicate psychology problems and the satisfaction in mind, charity, patience, and the honesty. Good deep thoughts, very, very important. So good deep thoughts, which will come again. Forgiving the nature will raise, forgiving nature, so will raise normally within us. Feel of divinity, awakening state, intelligence quotient will result in sweet wordings, thoughts always with confidence, real truth of highness, mind and self-realization feelings, a big boon to liberate from the continuing rebirths. Piraparuppu todar arukkum. So that is how that too he is saying Madhavamai. So it is a very big boon to liberate from the continuing rebirths. Then next poem 1509, based on the pressure inherited by the vital force purity, life force will remain in the body to the required time as you want. So life force will remain in the body. So as long as you say. So that is the meaning of this line. And then if filled with healthy and quality life force, then biomagnetic force in the body will be on the rise. And glowing astral biomagnetism will improve. All cell integration in the body will be very clearly aligned and function in resonance. Thereby, diseases, adult age, death always will be avoided, particularly on demand, samadhi will be received. Virumbungal samadhi kittum. So that is very important point. So he is saying that death can be avoided. So nobody else have given such an assurance, in any of this yoga. So here death can be avoided. So that means how? So that is the research which we are supposed to do on this. On demand, samadhi will be received. So whether you do research or not, if you follow the yoga, you are going to gain it. So all the research has been done by Maharishi and he has given the simplified yoga for us. And then the next poem says, Kayakalpam is a high-level Sanjeevi. So it is the medical herb, that too life-saving medical herb. And on practice with realization will result in vital fluid solidification. So pure practice of nerve toning, or just breathe, on practicing continuously through a guru. So that means you have to practice it continuously, but through a guru will relieve the defects in rebirths and diseases. So will relieve you from all the defects in rebirths and diseases, and regeneration and divine blessings will spring from within, will turn into an unseen SVF, sexual vital fluid, resulting in the sanction of deathless life. வித்தமுத ரசமாய் மாறி மரணமில்லா பெருவாழ்வு சித்தியாகும் will turn into an unseen sexual vital fluid resulting in the sanction of deathless life. Then vital fluid is the basis of soul. So here in this 84 years poem, so 1503, the life force is the wind, we can say. So we will explain it in the part 2. So life force is the wind, the unseen inside the body. Life force spin causing expanding waves, biomagnetism. Life biomagnetism will protect the cell alignment in the body and also will conduct the body and mind functions. If the biomagnetism gets short circuited in the body, which will result in pains and the body and diseases. Life biomagnetism, if exhausted due to short circuit, if the basic life force fluid container breaks out, then the soul will leave. So உயிர் தாங்கும் வித்துடையும் உயிரும் போகும். So life biomagnetism, if exhausted due to a sudden short circuit or the basic life force fluid container breaks out, then the soul will leave. So that is how he explained it here. And then Art of Kayakalpam in 84. So this is 1501 poem. Literates who counted the ancient special arts as 64. 64 ஆயக்கலைகள். So literates who counted the ancient special arts as 64, even if all arts are learned, and if Kayakalpam art is not learned, that means it will result in the ruin of all arts as no body will exist. So that is the meaning of this. And then unseen biomagnetism, life force and vital fluid, all three, if planned to live with the knowledge of such hidden secrets, removing all bad deed resultants, body will ever remain with divine glowing and soul will remain eternally. So மாயமெனும் காந்த உயிர் வித்து மூன்றில் மறைந்துள்ள ரகசியங்கள் விளங்கி வாழ்ந்தால். So that is how he is explaining. So the knowledge of hidden secrets. So we need to plan to know this. The knowledge should be known and then we have to live with this idea. And then biomagnetism as 1505 poem, the possible least particle. So we call it as PLP. The possible least particle, wind, inside the body is the fastest spinning life force. Soul is also the same. Here he is explaining about the wind. So wind என்ற நுண்ணணுதான் உடலுக்குள்ளே. So the possible least particle, wind inside the body, is the fastest spinning life force. Soul is also the same. Consciousness is based on the quality of PLP. All the functioning will be done in order with intelligence from within. In reality, it is the spin of the least particle, which is the magnetism. Filling all over the body and on intensification will lead to numerous mind and body functions. So you should remember one thing, filling all over the body and on intensification. So this is another word which is going to be discussed in the part 2. And filling all over the body and on intensification will lead to numerous mind and body functions. All are the forms of Almighty and we pay due respect to it. So that is how he is saying, எல்லாமாய் ஆற்றும் திருவருள் மதிப்போம். So now we are trying to discuss because we have only 1 hour. So I try to rush through on the poem and trying to highlight the poem main points. Like in 1511 he says, particularly தூய்மை செய்யும் கருமையத்தில், so brings in purity to the genetic center. So that was an important point. So this point we need to do further research on this. So that is why we are highlighting this. In 1502, so SVF, soul, ojas, mind and body, so all 5 should be guarded based on these resultant effects. So this is the second highlight on the poem 1502. On 1506, Kayakalpa Yoga is the raising of SVF to the pineal, Duriyam. And Ashwini Mudra, anal contraction and relaxation, is the exercise for getting the SVF. Along with the SVF, life force particles and biomagnetism increases. This is the secret of Kayakalpam. So that is how he is explaining in the next poem. Then Karai Poki Vittadane Urai Seyyum. So all bad imprints on the genetic center so will be made to freeze and will lead to liberation from all rebirths. So that is how he is explaining in the 3 poems. And then we will go to the next one. Yeah, in 1509, so in the poem says, improving the purity of SVF will make soul to stay in the body. If soul energy is filled, biomagnetism increases. If biomagnetism increases, all cells stacks will be improved and aligned. Body will be free from disease, aging process, death will be deferred, can opt for samadhi. So these are all the main points in this song 1509. In 1508, Kayakalpam will help to solidify the Shukla, so Sukilam we call it. So it is going to solidify the Sukilam, Vindu Kattum. So process of improvised nerve toning and Vojas breath will lead to the formation of virtual unseen SVF. So a divine fluid. So he is talking about a divine fluid now. So the life with no death. So endless life with no end. So we can continue without any death. So this is how he is talking about. In 1509, so SVF soul or Akash unseen within the body, the transverse wave or biomagnetism, and the biomagnetism guard the arrangement of body cells, thereby the physical body and mind. And if there is electrical short, pain and disease will emerge. If biomagnetism is gone scanty like, then the source of soul, namely the genetic center, will disintegrate and the soul thereby simply leaves the body. So the body is made of cell arrangements. The cells are kept intact by biomagnetism. The biomagnetism will have the spinning soul and which will dissipate expanding waves inside the body. Based on the limits of the soul, the genetic center, the SVF will emerge and remain. So this is how the 1504 poem is giving the highlights. And the 1501 highlights are something like this: biomagnetism, soul, and GC. So all these three are kept as a secret, but we should know. So it should be known to lead a healthy and happy life. So we should know all these three: biomagnetism, the wind, the weir, the life force, and the genetic center. So all these three should be known to us. Then in 1505, Akash wind is the possible smallest functioning spinning wave or particle, and that is the soul. We say that is the human soul. Based on the genetic center and the life force, the consciousness will thus start its disciplined way of functioning. The biomagnetism is the result of spinning Akash or wind particle only. So based on its congregation, increase of its density. So adu tinivu petru. So that based on its congregation. So the biomagnetism is the result of spinning Akash wind particle only, and based on its congregation, numerous body or mind functions are resulted. So this is how we discuss all these highlights of so many almost 11 songs. And then from these poems, so there are very important words like genetic center, soul, life force, Ashwini Mudra, and then the vital fluid, semen or seed, sexual vital fluid, the loss of vitality or the vitality that Vitalavu, biomagnetism, spreading wave, then semen, intensification, seminal fluid, like that. So there is a song which Maharishi always quote when talking about Kayakalpam. And the உயிர்தரித்த நாடியில் உறங்குகின்ற வாயுவை கருத்தினில் இருத்தியே கபாலமேற்ற வல்லீரில் விருத்தரும் பாலராவார். So the nadi from where the life force has begun. So there is a sleeping fluid. Realize it from your mind, raise it to the head, then the old will become very young and also the skin will glow. So this is given by Siddhar Sivavakya. So the nadi from where the life force has begun, there is a sleeping fluid. Realize it from your mind and then raise it to your head. The world will become very young and also the skin will start glowing. So this is how he has written it so many years before. And we see some more saint songs, Siddhar songs like. We can take Tirumular, Vindai Kettavan, Nundu Kettan. So the one who loses his semen, so he will destroy himself. It is given by Tirumular. If you lose your vital fluid, body will be destroyed. So it's given by Tirumular. If vital fluid is exhausted, even the beautiful girl will look like a ghost only. So Indriyam Tirndu Vittal, Sundariyam Pei Pola. So these are all the things. So people have already realized and they try to explain it to us. And somehow, we miss here and there, but finally Maharishi has given in a very condensed form so that we can simply understand all these things. So there is a Tirumular song in 1754, 7th Tandram. Adaram Adeyam Ahindra Vinduvum, Medadi Nadamum, Mide Virindana, Adara Vindu, Adibida Nadame, Bodavi Linga, Punarchiya Dame. So Vindu is the basis from where Nadam rises. Vindu is the base from where the Nadam rises. From the basic Vindu, Adeya Nadam is also created. This teaching is illustrated by the Linga Rupam. So that is how he is talking in this song number 1754. And the next poem, 1936, is very important. So, Aligindra Vindu Alavai Ariyar, Kaligindra Tannai, Ul Kakalum Terar, Aligindra Kayathu Arindu Ayarvu Utror, Aligindra Tanmai Arindu Odiyare. So, the beauty lies in the real wordings. So, in Tirumandiram, in this, he is explaining Tirumular, the destruction of Vindu levels due to the bad big lust is least known by the people. So we start destroying the Vindu levels. So that is because of the bad big lust. So that is what he is very easily explaining. And then they don't know the art of storing the Vindu inside the body, which otherwise exists through a downflow. So downflow is, so he is very clearly explaining. So you are given two options. So one option is you raise the SVF directly to the top and then use it in different ways to get into the real eternal energy. So you become the God. So you raise your level to the level of God. Or other way is you just allow it to go down. So it flows into your sexual glands and then it induces all the lust and then it just getting, it will get wasted just like that. So they don't know the art of storing the Vindu inside the body, which otherwise normally exists through a downward flow. So the people who are possessing the soul inside the destroying body, so the people who are possessing the soul inside the body. So there is we have a destroying body and we have a soul. And they are not knowing the art of protecting the body as a habitat, thereby spoiling themselves. So we don't know the art of protecting the body. So we are spoiling ourselves. So that is how he is talking in this song. So now we will go to the details of Kayakalpam process in the next one. So here, we have seen first with the Maharishi poems and then Siddhar poems, and then now we are going to the part 2, that is the explanation of this, the process. So human body is made of 3 layers, the physical, astral and the causal body. And then we call it as the Paramanu, as the possible least particle, PLP. For the time being, so we coined the name as possible least particle, or you can call it as Paramanu. And many of these Paramanu are joined to form a wind. So we call it as wind or Vedant. So many of these wind, so they join to form an atom. So and many of these atoms are going to form a molecule, and many of these molecules will join to form a cell, and millions of cells join to form a physical body. So ultimately the physical body is made out of cells, and at the same time the physical body is comprising of molecules, and the physical body is out of all atoms, and the physical body is made of only wind, and the physical body is made out of paramanu only. So this is how we can see this in a whole. So you can say that if you know this whole cycle, so we can even see the gold as well as a pot, a mud pot. So both, normally they say that saints normally will not see the difference between a gold pot and a muddy pot. So the sand pot, why they are saying is the sand and the gold. So they will see it as the formation of wind or formation of paramanu. So that is how it is defined. Now we come to the physical body. So we are talking about Kayakalpa. So we are restricting ourselves within this physical body. So the physical body is nothing but integration of multi-million cells. So that is how we start in the beginning. So this explanation is very nicely explained by Maharishi in his book. Now we take this possible least particle, PLP. So it is the first spinning particle, so which on getting into the intensified the eternal space, so where it gets madipi virundu, so it comes out and then turns itself. So this PLP, the paramanu, so is the paru means it turns and then it intensifies in the same place, or it accumulates in the same place. So that is called paruman. So from this point onwards, so this particle is going to have a paru like shape. So that is what you are calling it as the spherical shape. So it is swirling very fast, or it is spinning in a faster rate. Now many of these particles will form a wind. So that is a Vedan. So this wind um, has continued to move with a magnetic field. So this magnetic field is the resultant accumulation of the magnetic fields produced by each of these paramanu, that PLP particle. So this wind with this magnetic field, so it can form numerous number of wind combinations, and every wind combination will have its own magnetic field. We call it as wind column. So this wind column will join. So together, finally, you get all these things accumulated as a form of atom. So which we are able to see. So at least 10 to the power minus 10, we are capable enough to see. So here we see that now atom got formed, and from these atoms to molecules, so it forms the cell in the body, in the human body. So we have the cell here, and this cells is the stack. So the integration of cells and the physical body is the integration of all these cells. So that is how we are seeing it here. Now the physical body is the integration of multi-million cells. Okay, it is agreed. So what is happening, how these cells are attached with each other? So these cells are attached with each other with a simple form of a magnetic force. So this biomagnetism we call. So each cell will act as a smaller some sort of a magnet like. So this magnet will have a north and south pole like. So the opposite poles will attract each other. That is how the cells are kept intact. So each of these cells will have its own biomagnetism, and this biomagnetism, when all the cells are arranged, it will form a global magnetic field. So that we call it as the overall biomagnetism. So these magnetic poles will have attractive as well as repulsive force, and then these are all the poles we can say. Now each of these cell will function as a separate organism. So even though the cells are kept, but each cell will function as a separate organism, and each cell will function as a separate industry. So it will have its own cleaning cell, energy producing cell, communication cell, so the nucleus, nucleolus, so many things are there. It is like an individual industry we can say. So, and each cell will produce electricity and chemical as required by any part of the body, and immediately it will be sent. So that is how each cell is capable of producing electricity and chemical. So it's very important point which we will come back very soon on this. So then the genetic center. So this is the next part. So which we say, so Maharishi says, so both from the height, so you have to come half of the height, and also you should see that from the weight point of view. So that permanent point of view also. So the from the mass, you have to really make it into two halves. So that center, we call it as the genetic center. It's not only from the height or from the mass, it's both. So we have to find the genetic center. So this genetic center, now we will go more in details on the life force. So the PLP, the possible least particle to Vedan, so that is creating a magnetic field, and this is we call it as the life force particles, and the cells are formed out of Win or Vedan, and Win is the minute functioning particle, and LFP, the life force particle, has minute or least mass. So it is grown from one sense to five senses, and then as a human with six senses. So after crossing so many generations, the evolution, both the life force particles have not gone out of the body and still keeping all the storing all the data within that, and it is present within the human body. So that is how we call this life force particle. So it has gone from one sense to five sense. It has gone from one sense to five senses. Finally, as the human with the six senses, after crossing so many generations, the evolution theory or the evolution data, so it has been kept and it has not gone out of this body, and it is still present within the human body. So that is how it is explained. And then we go to the next slide. So the divine space is containing the self-compressive force on its own. So that is the nature. So the divine space will have the self-compressive force, and which creates the which transforms into the compressed or the energy, so that is getting converted into the paramanu, so the PLP, the possible least particle, and then you form the Vin Vedan out of the combination of these paramanu sets, and then spinning in the divine space. So that is going to create a friction with the divine space, and the PLP will come out of the Vin or Vedan and will exist as will exit. So it will come out as waves. So we call it as the magnetism. So if such a thing from the universe, if it is produced, that magnetism is called the universal magnetism. And if it is produced within the human body, so that magnetism is called the biomagnetism. So now what we understand from this slide is the divine space is having a nature of self-compressive force as its own nature, and because of it we are getting the paramanu, the possible least particle. So from there the combination of it is getting into a Vin, and this spinning in the divine space is going to create a friction between these two, and then the PLP will try to come out of this Vin or Vedan and will exit as waves. That is called magnetism. So whether it is in the universe or in the body, it is going to happen always, and you are going to get the magnetism out of it. So specifically based on its location, whether it is on the universe or on the human body, so we call it as universal magnetism or biomagnetism. Now we try to enter into the biomagnetism. So the biomagnetism is connecting cells, as we have already seen, as a continuous ongoing process. It is like a you just put a pin. So that is what Maharishi gives the example of just attaching a pin to a magnet, and then you continuously stack it with many number of pins, and one behind the other, and all the pins will be stacked together and hanging from the magnet. At the moment when you remove the magnet, the magnetic force is removed, so all the pins will fall down. So that is how we are right now. The biomagnetism is connecting all the cells as a continuous ongoing process, and the cells are interconnected by the biomagnetism. And pain, disease and death, the avoiding principle is from out of biomagnetism. So what we are going to see is body mass or the body cell count. So it is sufficient biomagnetism power is required. So if it depending on the body mass as well as the body cells count, so sufficient biomagnetism is actually required. So now the magnetism, if you see, there is a pull or attractive force. So it pulls all the matters towards it. So that is the pulling force. So we can say the attractive force. The repulsive force, it pushes all the matter away from it. So that is how we are seeing the magnetism here. Okay, then we go to the next one. So we the self transformation, the pancha tanmatrai. So pentasensory wave. So we just try to coin a name. So the pentasensory wave. So pancha tanmatrai. So the pressure and touch, light, sound, taste, and smell. So this we call it as the magnetism or the biomagnetism. And the other part is your nervous system. So we have the ANS and CNS, autonomous nervous system, so which normally works with all the voluntary activities, and then involuntary activities, and then central nervous system. So we have the biomagnetism linked with all the 5 items of the body: the physical body, sexual vital fluid, the soul or the life force, biomagnetism, and the mind. So the human body is containing all these 5, and we are talking about biomagnetism getting into Panchatanmatrai or into the nervous system. So that is how we talk about biomagnetism. So how important it is. So the biomagnetism, actually the wind or the life force particle, so will expand through the biomagnetism into spending the energy into either it is on the pentasensory wave, so on the panchatanmatrai, so as pressure, touch, or light, sound, taste, or smell, or on the nervous system, so whether it is ANS or CNS. So that is how we talk about the biomagnetism in the human body. Now coming to the next part. Yeah, biomagnetism should not be wasted, but conserved and utilized. So it is a very important point. Biomagnetism should not be wasted. So we should not be continuously, losing our energy in taste or seeing or something, watching very intensely or a mobile and things like that. So biomagnetism is continuously getting wasted. So it should be conserved and utilized. Like flowing rainwater should be conserved for irrigation and drinking purposes. It should not be wasted by flowing into the ocean. So how we are doing it for rainwater, we should think of our SVF and biomagnetism. So higher levels of biomagnetism will lead to good thoughts. So that is thoughts of doing good to others. So that is higher levels of biomagnetism. Automatically higher levels of biomagnetism will increase your thoughts of doing good to others. And lower levels of biomagnetism, if your body is having very low levels of biomagnetism, then thoughts of doing bad to others are going to be there without fail. So higher levels of biomagnetism is required to even to get the good thoughts. That is how it is. And universe is filled with magnetism, and magnetism is having all spinning actions. So it is going to cause, it is going to cause so attractive force in the center. So the universe is always filled with magnetism, as we know, and magnetism is going to have the spinning actions. So it is going to cause attractive force towards the center. So the lighter particle, so we call it as a specific gravity, samadala tulliya samadala cheermai. So specific gravity is having a different name in science, so I try to give a different term here to understand it better. So the perfect equilibrium function, so the specific gravity, so if it is lighter matter, then it runs away from the center. So if it is very lighter, so you can see the light color on this dot. So the black dot is the heavier part on this. That is how it is. And then the heavier matters will reach the center. So that is how the genetic center is formed. Now, life particles. So whatever what we are seeing is the life force particle. So these life force particles are lighter. So it comes out of the genetic center and travels all over the body. So biomagnetism spins all over the body and they form a center point. So that center point we can coin it as genetic center. So the genetic center is there and it stores necessary biomagnetism and sends it to the location where it is required. So it stores as well as it sends to the location. So whenever it is required, so it sends to the location where it is required. If a wound is there or a blood clot has to be made, so immediately things are done from the genetic center. Okay, so then we go to the next point. So the spinning action of biomagnetism, the life force particle keeps it functioning at the genetic center, and the brain produces the vital fluid, reaches the genetic center slowly. So if you see that the spinning action of biomagnetism is depending on the life force and it keeps functioning at the genetic center. So that is how we are understanding this life force and biomagnetism. And then the brain produces the vital fluid, and the vital fluid slowly reaches the genetic center. So that is how from the top down approach one can see. So the top down approach will happen on its own. So the excess fluid will immediately reach whatever is the vital fluid produced in the brain, so it can reach the genetic center slowly. So the biomagnetic force, the sexual vital fluid, and the life force, so all are interconnected with each other, all are interlinked, and then it is kept at the genetic center. Now there are 7 minerals, as we know, Saptadhatu. So these 7 minerals filled in the body, and it is present from the birth genesis itself. And then the vital fluid, what we say, it is produced in the brain but present all over the body, and the vital fluid is spent for all the body functioning. So that is what is important. So for all the body functioning, the vital fluid is always spent, and then the excess production will be stored in the sexual glands. So the excess production will simply getting stored into the sexual glands. Particularly a note is there, it is stored only after the age of 12. So up to 12 age, so the sexual vital fluid is utilized in building the body. So afterwards, then it is getting stored. So here is the place where we should really think. So up to the age of 12, so it is having the capability. So starting from the day one and then up to the age of 12, so it is capable of building a complete human body itself, which our science, we cannot do that. So it is created, we call it. So actually, such a creation is created by this SVF very simply up to the age of 12. So it is completely building all the body parts very carefully and in a very aligned way with real consciousness. So what we are saying, so that much of power is there in the SVF. And then what happens after 12? So it starts entering into as the excess fluid range. So once it starts becoming the excess fluid, and then the excess fluid is just getting wasted. So the excess fluid, we have the two options. So either you can go even building a body, like, so that much of real, like a creator, you can create lots of things with this fluid, as well as you simply just waste in the lust. So that is how this Shiv Tattva, so they talk in these two terms only. So either if you want to attain real jnanam, so they say that, so if you want to know the real truth, so try to take this into your top to the brain, and then you try to utilize it to become one with the Almighty, or you simply leave it like a normal body and then you simply die without any meaning out of it. So that is how it's very, very important point on the sexual vital fluid. And then based on the level of vital fluid, so the life force levels are fixed and it is present in the body with those specified levels only. So based on the level of vital fluid, so that is how we should understand. And if you see that in a battery, how electricity is, we are trying to take out a form of electric power, so we take the electricity out of it. In the same way, we now talk about the life force. So there, for the current, if we will have the magnetic field aligned with that. In the same way, you can consider life force as the current. So the life force particle as the current particles are the electron like. So the current particles. So and then you will have the once the running electron is found, then you will have the magnetic field. So that is how we talk about the life force from the sexual vital fluid, which is a battery of this vital fluid. In the sexual vital fluid, so we talk about for the male, so it is the sperm, and for the female, it is the ovum. So Arunagiri Nadar so talks about Nada Vindu Kaladi Namo Namo. So this Marishi also quotes here. And the sexual vital fluid, so it is having 13 plus materials, and people are talking about 21 materials or the 32 materials. So there are so many research papers available on the latest things. So probably we have more experts within us, so to talk on how many materials and what materials are made of, the salts and other proteins and other details. So that is how it is. So we'll talk about the Nadavindu Kaladi Namo Namo. So Nadavindu Kaladi Namo Namo. So it is given by Saint Arunagiri Nadar. So Maharishi has quoted this. So Nadam means it is the ovum. So from the female part, and Vindu means sperm. So from the male part, and there is a Kalai. So Kalai is Kaladi means Kalai Adi. So Kalai is art and primordial state. So it is in the from the beginning. So that is the Adi state. So Nada Vindu Kaladi. So Kalai Adi Namo Namo. So he is just excitingly he is reciting this poem. So Nada Vindu Kaladi Namo Namo. So the art, the Kalai, so it is already having 5 types. So Nivruti Kalai, so 100 crore Yojana Brahmand they talk about. Then Pratita Kalai and 1000 crore Yojana, and Vidya Kalai, so Ayudha crore Yojana, and Shanti Kalai, so 1 lakh crore Yojana like, and Shantyadita Kalai, so 10 lakh crore Yojana like. So that is how, so he is talking about Nadavindu Kaladi. So just I gave the details of it, what is the real meaning of Nadavindu Kaladi, and the static space. So now we know with the dynamic space, so the functioning part of it, the Shiv has become the Shakti. So when it is in the static state, so we call it as the Shiv. In the dynamic state, so we call it as the Shakti. So now the particles, so what you are seeing it here, is the PLP. So the possible least particle. So what we are seeing it here, so we call it as the Paramanu, and it will look like a globe sphere. So that is how it is. So the wind for various definitions are given. So as a dot, point, or a drop, or globule, or drop of water, or semen, or sperm, and many things like that. So which we can deal more in details in the coming lectures. So we have the vital fluid. So the meaning is the semen, and the Vindu is the life force particle, and the energy of Vindu is the life force energy. So now energy is required for any functions. So that is how we can understand the life force. So heat energy for boiling water, so we need it, and all body functions need energy. So this energy is gained from food intake. So this will get added with the sperms and stored inside. So this renews all the cells and renovates them. So the human body loses its health, and if the vital fluid is lost, causing least hope to renew and renovate cells. So this is a very important point. So the human body loses its health. So if the vital fluid is totally lost, so causing least hope to renew and renovate the cells. So renewal of cells means what? So tissue growth, bone growth, hair growth, intelligence growth, and then you have the skin glow, sperm count increase, and maintenance of body parts. So these many things are included in each of these cell renewal or cell renovation. So every day, every cell is getting renovated, and some of the cells will just fall out. So as a dying cell, and then new cells are formed. So all these things are happening, and you need energy for doing all these things. So that is how we talk about the life force energy. So now we'll start approaching. So what we have understood is from the poems, we got the important highlights, and from the highlights, we entered into the process, and then the process. Now we realized, so you need a huge amount of energy, and how this energy is passed. So there are many such theories, and we need to fit the appropriate science to this process. That is what we are doing the research. And thanks to RER for giving us this opportunity to link up with plasma. So we are trying to have a new analogy. So with the plasma here, so we are trying to approach the Kayakalpam process through the plasma model. So in chemistry, so now we are going to talk about the plasma possible um, theory behind it. So in the chemistry, so we have the molecules. So the molecules of adrenaline is shown here. So we talk about atomic physics like the nucleus and the uh, orbiting electrons to it. And then we enter into the nuclear physics, where we talk more on the neutron and proton. And then we enter into the latest new generation physics. So the particle physics or the quantum physics. So we talk about quarks, so which is making the part of the nucleon, and the particularly on the quarks, where we try to attach all these quarks through the gluon, and then we enter into a science named as the wisdom science. So this wisdom science is what we are now trying to see from it. So what we are seeing is all this physics and then the chemistry what we have studied. So we are talking about a new science. So that is a wisdom science to understand particularly this life force and the Kayakalpam and the biomagnetism like. So that is what we are trying to do now. So now we take the matter. So like our earth. So we take the matter in a macroscopically we take, and then that is 10 to the power minus 9 meters, and then you try to keep on looking at it very minutely. So and then you enter into the levels of atom of 10 to the power minus 10 meters, and then the atomic nucleus, so which can be about 10 to the power minus 14 meters, and then another 10 meter down, then you will have one order, so that is the nucleon, so 10 to the power minus 15 meters, and then the quarks, so 10 to the power minus 18 meters. So this is the atomic scale. So the Maharishi's poem, we can understand this. So if you know him, so if you know him as the Almighty, so if you know him, then you are the real great scholar. So if you know him, you are a great scholar, and if you forget him, you remain very idiotic. So that is how we say that Avanai Marandal நீ சிறியோன் அவனை அறிந்தால் நீ பெரியோன். So that is how we can understand this. And then we talk about Vedatrium philosophy, the Vedatrium concept, so the Vedatrian model of science. So here we talk about mass in the regular science, and then made of atoms, and then neutron, proton, and electron. So everybody knows that. And then we have the subatomic particle to 1, 2, 3 levels we have reached. So that is how the science is further digging into. Now, further if we go down, so we are talking about the space somewhere at the bottom. So the bottom space, so it is the real bottom of everything is the space. From there we get into the paramanu, and then the wind, and then you get into the various subatomic levels. So that is how we talk about n levels. So we don't know how many levels, and we are talking because about wind, because Maharishi has given us from paramanu to wind. So we talk about wind. There are many stages to get into the subatomic particles, and the fulfillment of intelligence, that is liberation. So you and him knows a common place. So that is what he's singing a very nice poem where he says, you and the Almighty. So you and him knows a common place where it is the fulfillment of intelligence. That is what is the liberation from all the rebirths. So the science you can see, so it has cut from this horizontal line what you are seeing there. And then the Vedatrium, so the Vedatrian model of science, it starts from the base, from the bottom, and it is covering up to the science. And whatever is the advanced levels of scientific adventures, whatever we are having now, so it all can be explained with the Vedatrium model of science. And also if you go down where science cannot enter, so there also the Vedatrian philosophy will make. So that is how we are seeing it as a unified force. So now it has been already attempted by Leadbeater and Annie Besant. Both of them are very good scientists, and they have done lots of experiment, and they called it as the occult chemistry. So the Leadbeater book really seems to be very interesting. So anybody is interested, one can read that the occult chemistry, how they have defined this state, and they have almost, they are talking. So you can see this occult chemistry from the picture itself. It is very clearly mentioning, starting from the cells to all the plants to body cells, everything they have correlated. But unfortunately, when they tried with the biomagnetism experiments, so they were not successful in that, and because of many reasons. So we are not going in details, and that's how they stopped the complete research, and then they left it at a point. But they have given us a huge amount of knowledge, whatever they have gained. And because of the high magnetism and the high electric field, so they were not able to proceed further. Whereas Maharishi has explained us without any big experiment that we need to create, but we can understand the concept very easily. So that is how he has given us this concept. At the same time, it is our duty to do such research experiments and prove that the Vedatrium is not for a small group of people just to have a satisfaction. It is to the whole world to really cherish, and the world has to flourish with a complete, the world peace. So for all these things, we need to do a lot of work as part of our duty. So it is a thankful deed that we should do it for our guru. That is what we are seeing it from here. And then Professor Jacob Beneviste, so he is from France. So he did a particular experiment proving that the life force particle, like, so we call it as a life force particle, whereas he tried to explain that, so there is a essence of such life force, so that is existing in, even if you dilute it in one in more than 1,000 crores like parts, so you are still going to have this part if the succession in the homeopathic dilution process. So the succession is very, very important. So that he has proved, and exactly he has made papers also. But partially the scientific team, so they have agreed upon, and later after some time they have rejected. So for simple reasons, but he could not succeed. But he was a real successful professor, So he has done very good experiment to give the scientific proof that the life force so are existing. Even if you take the juice, 1 liter of juice, then mix it with so many 9 parts to 9 parts to 9 parts, like, so you can keep on increasing the dilution level, but still the life force particle is supposed to remain. And that is why even Maharishi says that homeopathy medicines we should learn and we should take on a particularly on this basis, because we don't need so much of chemicals, but we need only the amount of life force what is required. So if at all, if your body requires it, so if your body is not able to produce, so you can utilize this particular medical route. So that is how we explained. Now we enter into the plasma. So the state of heated gas, so like 1,000 degrees are going more than, so something like 10,000 lakh degrees centigrade. So is it going to be just a gas itself, or it is going to be a different state? So the four states of matter. So we have already seen the solid, liquid, gas, and then the plasma. So the solid. So if you try to give more heat to it, you will get the liquid, and when you are giving more heat energy, so you will get the gas on vaporization. So then if you further heat the gas, so you will enter into a state of plasma. So this plasma will have a ionized state, so with ions and electrons, so it will be floating in a sort of fluid like medium. So how it is, we'll see more in details. So that is how we call it as a plasma. So it is a fluid. So that fluid is going to behave in a very different way when compared to all other states. So how the plasma is formed? So you try to give a very high temperature, so or you just give the energy to it, so the particles will get separated itself like ions and the electrons. So the positive and negative parts will be just moving out, and this will have a neutral gaseous atom. So this neutral gaseous atom will be ripped apart due to this high amount of energy what it has received, and then it will be running with very high velocities. That is what we call it as the high temperature here. And the 99% of the observable galaxy what you are seeing, so 99%, 99.9% is filled with plasma. So the plasma is 99.9% of the observable universe. So that is what we are now talking about. The most of the astrophysicists, they say that very clearly that 99.9% is filled with plasma only. So the galaxy what we are seeing it here are the flames, the lightning, or the aurora borealis, or the sun. So the sun is the example of a star in its plasma state. So that is how we are seeing it, all these different forms of plasma. So we have furthermore the laboratory plasma also. Now, the plasma as the fourth state of matter. So we talk about the temperature and the number density. So various plasma and the reactors are shown here. The solar corona, so it is shown at the mid portion here. The lightning, so where it is kept because of the higher density and then the lower temperature. If you want to go with higher temperature, so you can see the fusion, so that is happening. And the solar core, so on the right side you can see the solar core, so which is having a temperature of 10 to the power 7 like. So now the characteristics of plasma. So there is a collective behavior in the plasma, so which is the phenomena. So where the way that the plasma as a whole reacts or behaves is depending on the behavior of each and every particle in the plasma. So the total behavior, the overall behavior will be based on the individual particle behavior. The overall behavior is the sum of the individual particles behavior, and the plasmas are many body systems with enough mobile charged particles to cause some collective behavior. So this is, we call it as a divine fluid. So if the divine fluid is filled with plasma, for example, and if you put up even a single particle at any corner of this whole space, so all the particles will feel the perturbation. So that is how we talk about plasma. And sun, we said that the sun is in the plasma state, so we can have more details of sun as an example. So there is a solar flare which is coming out in many kilometers of height, so you can really have a feel on this. So such solar flares are occurring every now and then. and then the solar interior. So starting from the outer space, something like 6,000 degrees centigrade. So if you are seeing it here, photosphere, and then you have a convective zone. So that is another sphere. So behind that, and then you have a radiative zone. So which is next to it, and then finally the center, the mass. So where you have the intensified mass escape. So that is with a core of 15.7 million Kelvin. So that is the temperature of sun. So all these things, how it is happening? So who has created this sun? So if we see that it is nothing but intensification of self-compression, nothing else. So the self-compression, so we call it as the gravity. So in science, so the self-gravity, the self-compression force has made the non-burning hydrogen on the top. So it has formed to become a helium fusion. So finally, when the helium atoms are filled, then it undergoes into the helium fusion to give a carbon layer, and the carbon layer, all the carbon are pulled towards the center. So you get the carbon fusion to give you the oxygen, from there to neon, from there to magnesium, from there to silicon, and finally the central core is the inert iron core. So this iron core is the one which is really fueling us. So the iron has, intensified iron, so is at the center, and it is creating the continuous self compression force, so through which, the whole solar system now we are just spinning around and floating. So that is how we are seeing it as the self compression force. So this self compression force, so we call it as the gravitational confinement in the sun. So there is a fusion occurring at all the layers. So fusion of iron is going on, self compressing force and surrounding pressure. So இறைநிலை என்பது பெருவெளியே. So there is a poem by Maharishi on this இறைவெளியே தன்னிருக்க சூழ்ந்தெழுத்தும் ஆற்றல். So this every day, every morning and evening we recite, and that is the meaning of this. So the self compression force, the self compressing force, and the surrounding pressure, so is really making the gravity. So the gravitational confinement of sun, so is happening out of this. And now we know the energy release, so due to a fission, so where we hit a uranium atom, and then we try to split apart, the splitting of this uranium atom into two parts. So with one neutron, which is going to give high energy neutrons, further three, and these three neutrons will further hit other other uranium atoms, and these will continue the chain reaction. So we get a somewhat controlled, but at times uncontrolled, so fission energy. So we are seeing it from the nuclear reactors like Fukushima and other places. So at times when it is going out of control, it's very difficult to have a control on this because of the continuously emerging out high energy neutrons. So we are not able to arrest it. So that is how it is. And then there is a latest one. So we call it as the plasma fusion energy. So where we have the deuterium and tritium. So we try to fuse it together at very high velocities, and we get into the helium atom, and there is a mass difference, and that we are getting it as the energy. So that has been already tested in 1952 as a fusion bomb, and we know that the huge amount of energy is released, so from this fusion. And similarly in somewhere in 460 BC, Hippocrates, so he was talking about what medicines do not heal, the lands will, and what the lands does not heal, the fire will. So the probably the fire, what he talks about is more than 1 lakh degrees centigrade. That is about the plasma he's talking about. So we can have huge amount of applications from the plasma onto our body. So there is something new. So we have seen all the high energy reactions and the plasma. So there is something called biological transmutation, which is very important for us, particularly on this day to discuss. So there is a low energy nuclear reactions which is happening for the biological transmutations. So the science of biological transmutation, an interesting hypothesis is given by Professor Louis Kervran. So he's a French professor. So what he said was, so in his hypothesis, he is saying whatever is your molecular or atomic input, whatever you are giving to the biological system, so you will get the output in a different way. So that is the years of observation that he has made. So after making so much of observation, he is saying this sort of things is different. It is peculiar in particularly in biological system. So whereas if you try to understand this, like input of taking calcium as intake, so it should be the calcium output also. So even if any form change is present in this, so whatever is your intake of calcium should be the output of the calcium atoms, how many you are putting in, so you should get it out simply like that. So according to him, what he says is intake of calcium is the output means, so your output may not be equal to this. So intake of a plant or by a dog, so he has made so many observations. So he observed in many biological systems. So imbalances are found in all elements like nitrogen, silica, oxygen, carbon, not only with the calcium. So he tested with nitrogen, silica, oxygen, carbon, everything, and he found there is imbalance. Whatever you are putting in, so you are not getting it out. Either you are getting in a very increased amount, or you decrease something and then increase some other thing. So it is really a peculiar phenomena, and that he said it as the biological transmutation. So this biological transmutation, so he has made it, and then biological transmutations do not follow the mainstream physics. So whatever the physics says, the energy conservation, mass conservation, so biological transmutations normally they go out of way. So change in the atomic number requires large heat and pressure is the another physics what we have seen just now. E is equal to mc square. So change in the atomic number, so whenever you want to change atomic number, so you need to apply large amount of heat and pressure. So that is as per physics. Now for example, nuclear reactions in the sun, just now we have seen. So these many examples are very clearly explaining the physics. Whereas transmutation of elements in biological system, so it is totally different. So how we can see this now? So this transmutation of nitrogen into carbon and oxygen. So 14N2, so that is 28. So will form 12 carbon and 16 oxygen. So total 28. So that is how. So this total nitrogen is now split into carbon and oxygen. Transmutation of nitrogen into silica is also possible. 14 nitrogen can go as directly into 28 silica. So all such imbalances are repeatedly observed. So he not only just did so a simple experiment and then started eureka like. So he made so many experiments, and then finally with the consistent results he has come out with his own theory. And from this hypothesis, we can see even potassium and hydrogen into calcium. So like 39 potassium and 1 hydrogen will give 40 calcium. And 40 calcium will give 39 potassium and 1 hydrogen, like it is reversing. So and similarly transmutation of calcium from magnesium and oxygen. So 24 magnesium plus 16 oxygen will give to 40 calcium. So this is how we are looking at so many elements, and all these elements are commonly required to carry out our main body functions and structures. Very, very important. So he's talking about biological transmutations, and particularly whatever the elements we discussed. So nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, silica, and calcium, hydrogen, magnesium, oxygen, like. So all these elements are commonly required for carrying out our main body functions and structures. So it is very, very important here. So we should understand that. So that is how this biological transmutation meaning occurred. And transmutation of atoms, so it is differing here. So some of these atoms are more stable, like combination of proton and neutron of the nucleus. So some atoms, so like in the nucleus you have the protons and neutrons. So these combinations are going to be stable in some cases, like helium can be seen as the most stable atom. Comparatively, nitrogen is a bit unstable. So what is the meaning of it? So binding of nitrogen is a bit tight, but it's not that too tight also. So it is something like on and off. So this nitrogen is bit unstable, and hormones in the body of the living beings will transmutate nitrogen as carbon and oxygen, like what we have seen. So Dr. Kervaran reported like this. So if you see that, it's very, very important point here. So hormones in the body of the living beings will transmute So nitrogen into carbon and oxygen, 14 nitrogen to 12 carbon and 16 oxygen. So that is how Kervran professor has explained this. Then in 1799, so already a French chemist, Vauquelin, so what he has given, so he has isolated a hen and fed it a pound of oats. So he isolated a hen and fed a pound of oats to it and analyzed for lime, that is the calcium oxide in the eggs and feces, and he found 5 times more calcium was excreted than it was consumed. 5 times more calcium. So it was in the excretory element. And then the lime was created, but the mechanism was not found. So how the lime got produced? So that mechanism he could not found. So then we find in 1822 English physiologist named Prout. So he studied the increase of calcium carbonate inside the incubating chicken eggs. So increase of calcium carbonate inside the incubating chicken eggs proved that it was not contributed by the shell itself. Then how, what has created this? What was the mechanism behind it? So it was really a thought for research. Then in 1831, Schaubert, so he studied the germination of watercress seeds in a clean glass vessel. And then what he has found, so he showed that sprouts contain the minerals which was not previously existed in the seeds. So there was nothing like such elements were present in the seed, but those minerals were produced in the seeds and it was there. And in 1844, another researcher named Vogel, so he found the evidence of biological transmutation. So that was another breakthrough in this biological transmutation. And then David Hudson in 1980s, he discovered, so he is very famous, so arbitrarily rearranged monoatomic elements, so ORMEs, so it was discovered by him. So all these things are for food for thought for us. So the part of research what we are everyone is going today going to do is really we have to think. So there is a process of high energy and there is a process on the low energy, particularly for biological transmutations, and so much of research items are available on this, and we need to really find out what is going to fit into our Kayakalpa research. And living beings can transmutate atoms, so it is very clear now. So hormones secreted in the living being body can absorb the atoms and restructure them as needed. So hormones secreted in the living body can absorb atoms and restructure them as needed, and this is to rebuild necessary molecular structures in order to perform various other body functions. So they can rebuild whatever is the required molecular structures to perform different body functions. So that is how the living beings which are transmutating the atoms. So particularly the hormones secreted in the living body, so they can absorb the atoms and restructure them. So it's very, very important point. So these couplets are going to be very useful when you are thinking of research. And there is a ether physics model. So ether model, even Maharishi refers it in many places. So the ether physics model, so this model provides the geometry and mechanics of individual ether units. So this gives the geometry and mechanics of individual ether units, and ether is the least possible particle, what we are talking here as the PLP, possible least particle. So ether is the least possible particle with a rotating magnetic field and fills up all the space in the physical universe. So it is filling up the complete space in the physical universe. So that is how we are saying. And ether is the base structure for ether is the base structure as the least possible particle, and base structure for all the subatomic particles. So the electron and the proton, so they are all present in the normal matter, which we are seeing it in the physical universe. The electron plus proton, so you will get the neutron as the neutral atom. So electron on the negative charge, proton on the positive charge. When you join together, you will get the neutron. So this electron, proton and neutron, so together, so we name it as the atom here. So that is how we talk about particularly on the atoms, the evolution of the atoms. And then we now jump into the summary part of it. So we have the genetic center. So it is very clear. So the genetic center will have the space at the center. So that space is linked with the real eternal space, and it is linked up with the real eternal space, and that is how we can see that. So genetic center is linked with the eternal space containing the storage of all imprints starting from its own evolution. So all the imprints are stored in the genetic center. So it is linked with all the imprints here, and then we now move into the biomagnetic force, the sexual vital fluid, and the life force, which are interlinked with each other. So they are all present in the genetic center. So through the Kayakalpam, so exercise, so we are now creating the life force particle and the good amount of biomagnetic force which we are taking up. So the sexual vital fluid will contain the whirling, spinning life force particle. The moving life force particle will produce the magnetism, that is the biomagnetism, and fills throughout the body, and all the cells are connected and communicated through moving of this life force particle. So this gives the complete collective behavior like in the state of plasma. So we are seeing it. So somehow the whole body is interlinked, and at the same time everything is floating, and but the communications are very clear, and then the energy transfer is very clear, and we are seeing the flow of current, and you get the as the life force particle, and thereby the magnetic force which is emerging out of it. So then we enter into the next part. So on the summary, so in the normal man, so normally you have the option. So either you take it up and then make it for enlightenment, or you just push it down, so which you don't need to do anything, so it will take you to the wrong route. So that is how a normal man is given the options, whereas the saints, so they just raise this up to the brain. So where it is produced, so it is produced in the brain, the SVF, and the same place, so they try to take it to the top, so that is the Mooladhara chakra. So the genetic center is shifted from Mooladhara to Duriam, so to the pineal gland. So they move it there, and then from there they go for further enlightenment, and that is how they do. But whereas Maharishi has given us a very simplified route, which we will talk as the Kayakalpam now. Now, in this, so we are trying to go with a divine shower. So the normal man, the excess fluid is wasted downwards. So whereas a divine fluid irrigation, so what Maharishi has given, so the normal man himself, so he can simply raise it to the top. The life force particles are separated from the genetic center by doing the Ashwini Mudra, and then raised up from the Mooladhara as Ojas, and then to Duriam, and a shower to all the cells is given. So there is no storage on the head like the saints what they used to do in the past. So we are trying to do a shower. So this divine shower, so we are going to take every day, morning and evening. So you are going to continue this exercise, means you are every day you are going to have the divine fluid irrigation. So we are not wasting the energy, so but we are going to utilize it to the cells of the body for regeneration and renewal. Then, so what we are talking about is a excess fluid wasted downwards. So it is converted into a wealth by Kayakalpam, and we can call it as it is the wealth from the waste. So otherwise it could have gone as the waste, so as the excess fluid. So every day we are utilizing it. So we are going to increase our own potential force, life force, biomagnetism force, chemical force, like, so we are going to increase a huge amount of army we are going to have. So everybody is going to have a big army from ourselves, and it is going to be a habit for harmonious life, and it is going to give you a very good deed thoughts. So that means a good divine travel. So will be assured to you, and every day we will have a biomagnetic bathing. So out of free of cost. So it's your own creation. So you just do the biomagnetic bathing. So without spending dollars to it, and the filling up of life force throughout the body. So we are going to fill up the life force throughout the body, and we are going to have a real festival of life force, of course, every day. So every day will become a new birth for all the cells as well as for us. So it is going to be a big festival for us on every day, and a daily dose for divine life is the going to be there for us, and logistics of longevity. So it is going to be assured, holistic life management system, we can call it, or a total life management system, and real life insurance. So this is going to give you the real life insurance. What is the premium for it? It is nothing but performing daily Kayakalpam yoga is the real premium you are going to pay, and it is going to give you the immunity booster. So all these words, so I got from our Guru Ayya. So thanks to him for giving such a nice flow on this. And then we have more science attached to it. So the ojas, the reproductive hormone. So the energy flow from the Muladhara chakra. So it is taken as the Kundalini flow and through the spinal column. So to the Sahasrara chakra, and then the Tejas effulgence. So this glow of Tejas. So the Tejas and the Ojas, and then you have the Prana. So more research can be taken from here. So since there is a limited time, so I just try to complete it with this much of data, whatever was available. And thanks to all the gurus and professors who has really given us this opportunity to learn, and plasma from the universe so brings in universal solutions. So with this, I would like to thank everybody, Valga Valamudan, for giving a very patient hearing on this. So I appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you so much. Valga Valamudan. Thank you, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raviprakash, sir. This is wonderfully, really detailed information about the plasma, and you have connected with Maharishi's Vedatrian philosophy and explained very detailed way of physics, chemistry, atom level, and how the energy from Vedatrium is connected through the bio form to the plasma. It's a very good enlightened presentation, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to give to Dr. M.D.R. Saraya to speak. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Maharishi has been trying to bridge the science and spirituality. And what you have seen in the form of a plasma intervention, the unification has taken place. What plasma is doing is being done by our sexual vital fluid, hormones, and everything. So here the physical energy is converted into the spiritual energy, and spiritual energy gives back to this thing. Today you have received a lot of information about the subatomic particles in a plasma state, how it is. It is, I think, a new information, and synthesizing this new information with it is beautifully done by Raviprakash, Naga Raviprakash, and it is a reference material for you to go through again and again to understand. Even the science students, physics students, chemistry students may find it difficult to understand the plasma state. But Raviprakash has given it so simply, lucidly, following Maharishi's way of simplicity. And I appreciate Professor Guru for guiding Raviprakash to this presentation. Shall I invite Dr. Swatantra Devi, who has done some work on Kayakalpa and in preparing the book which we have produced and going to release. Dr. Devi, please.
Thank you, Ravi. Dr. Prakash, it's a very eye-opening presentation. As Dr. Ravi said, we have to go through it again and again to absorb the full impact of it. So I don't think I can comment much now, but I want to say just one or 2 points. So in one place you said sexual vital fluid is the sperm in man and ovum in women. So that is one little contentious point, I think. And you said brain produces the vital fluid. So, I mean, then it becomes a physical structure, isn't it? The vital fluid is a physical structure that's produced by the brain. So now what is the equivalent of that physical structure according to the anatomy and physiology? That's one question I wanted to ask. And then the other thing is, in another place you have said one minute. All the scientific explanations are really not so much understood by me. And this biological transmutation, that aspect is very good. Because that is what is alchemy, isn't it? And our Siddhas were specialized in alchemy and changing the ordinary metal into gold and things like that. And the one point you said about that was, it needs very high temperatures and pressure. The 2 points you mentioned for this atomic number change or the change in the metals, the chemicals. So that is exactly what our Siddhas also said about this Kayakalpa practice. They said, Mooladharathu moondalu kanalai kalal eluppum karuttarivitthu. So in Mooladhara, the heat should be increased in the Mooladhara. Then, that energy rises up and then it goes up to the Sahasrara. And for that, you have to do the pressure, you need the heat by way of breathing. One is, and then to increase the pressure, you need bandhas. And that is how Ashwini Mudra and Moola Bandha, because bandha means like shut down we have, no? So when you do Moola Bandha, it's like putting the weight in the pressure cooker. So it increases the pressure and then it just comes up with a lot of pressure, and because the heat is underneath and the pressure of both of them are there, then the transformation or transmutation happens. That is one thing the Siddhas have said, and I understood from your speech also. But otherwise, there's nothing, and I would like to go through it again and again, and thank you for a very nice presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
I have few words. Hello.
May I know who it is? Hello, may I know who is speaking?
Okay, my name is.
Can you give your name?
Yes, please. Yeah, my name is Melkos, and I'm working in data science and artificial intelligence. I am completely new to this Sky Yoga, Manavalakalai, all this stuff. I attended the class in Kolattur, Manavalakalai, Chennai. It is so surprised to attend the meeting. Thank you so much. Only thing is right, and if you take this Manavalakalai, Sky Yoga along with the science, only then we'll be able to reach the new generation. So in that way, the seminar is really eye-opener. The modern generation is not going to understand what is Sky Yoga, all this stuff. They are busy with social media and other stuff. So this is right time to connect the Sky Yoga, Manavalakalai with the science. When we say something with the scientific background, there will be authentication. People start believing it. That's more important, and that way I'm so happy. And thank you so much.
I'm Dr. Ravindranath, Director R&D, and we are going into the research of Kayakalpa. And I'm glad that today you have come and you are volunteering yourself. We welcome you to be with us and help us. Let us put our brains together and evolve at a new understanding. It is something very interesting and very important also. What is happening in the reactors, the plasma produces, what is happening is taking place in multi-dimensional ways within the body with the help of the sexual vital fluid, Ashwini Mudra and Ojas Mooch, and all these things are taking place, and the material to study what is given today by putting our knowledge together and producing something new, like our brains synthesizing the required material. As Dr. Devi said, it is the Tagara Vidyai and the alchemy which has been followed by the Siddhas. Even the Siddha who lived in the last century, Ramalinga Vallala, he has done the alchemy and the huge chains encircling the Jnana Sabai is gold, and that is remaining as such. So we are getting an opening into a peep into the world, which is the biological reactors within the body, producing new alchemy. And we have to go through it. Dr. Ananda, want to contribute anything?
Thank you, Ayya. Thank you, Dr. Ravi Ayya. Dr. Raviprakash Ayya, very nice presentation. We are discussing this Kayakalpa in various ways and various methodology for many years, and you have shine light in a nice manner by using plasma. I have few questions. My first question is very simple. Why you have brought in biological transmutation in this discussion? Say, for example, you have discussed about this magnesium and oxygen becoming calcium, etc. I'm happy with Dr. Davies and Dr. Rabiaya's discussions on the ancient method of converting like mercury into gold and those things. That is different technique. Now, I want to know why you want to discuss biological transmutation for this particular Kayakalpa linking with plasma. So, are you trying to say that the plasma is the much more primitive form even compared to proton, electrons and neutrons? And we know that if all the atoms, calcium, hydrogen, everything is made up of atoms, and everything is made up of proton, neutron and electron, and everything is made further down from plasma. So we can explain quite straightforward, Kayakalpa is energy, and if you go backwards, the most primitive form is the plasma. That is very easy to understand. And why you want to bring that biological transmutation in this discussion, please?
Yeah. Thank you, yeah. It's a very nice question. So actually, if you see that the plasma, so as I already explained, so plasma is a high energy physics. So you need to have very high energy, that is high temperature and high pressure, or very low pressure like in the vacuum. So you create a sort of plasma so that you can have the number density and other things calculated for all the atoms like. So that is a very high temperature plasma. So we talk about high temperature plasmas, and then we tap the energy out of it. So we try to do a fusion reactor out of it. This is one thought line. And there is another one in the recent days on the paper, not recent days, it's from 1990 onwards. So there is something called cold fusion. So it's a very good question. So the cold fusion is once again, so the science is struggling to accept it as the plasma fusion. So even though they call it as the hot fusion, there is another one called the cold fusion. So we are continuously gaining energy out of it. So that is another debate going on whether we should accept it as a plasma. So they named it as cold plasma, and they are able to do it in a very laboratory scale, not to a very big reactor like spending 1.5 lakh crores to make a big reactor. So they are still making the same deuterium and tritium and trying to gain the energy out of it. But how they are doing it? So that is a question of debate whether this cold fusion can be considered as the hot fusion. So now people are talking about the hot fusion. So on one side, so at the same time there is a cold fusion, still following the plasma principles, but we are getting the same helium gas output. So we are able to find that it is containing the neutrons too. So these are all the things still the science is struggling to accept. So at the same time, what we can see it as, so both the cases. So there also there is a plasma, and here also we call it as a plasma. So plasma is a wide thing actually. So right now the science is bonded with plasma on the higher temperature, whereas we can take to any level the plasma, as you have said, the primordial state. So the plasma is existing from there itself. So how we are going to see is what is the concept. So you can what I was trying all the time was to look out with a higher energy heat. So what Madam Devi Madam was explaining about. So there she was talking about high temperature, means you need to really, what we are doing in the Kayakalpa is increasing the energy. So thereby you get the heat produced. So there is an intensification process going on there in the Kayakalpa process. So that is equivalent to the gravitational confinement, so which we can equate it to the sun. And Ramalinga Vallalar, so he has also said that whatever is the eyesight, what you are seeing, the temperature, so it is equivalent to that of the sun. So we are seeing the temperature as equivalent to that. But at the same time, there are a lot many process. The biomagnetism itself is restructuring all these molecules. So together in the plasma state, in the floating state itself, it is forming some more elements. It's not due to fusion or fission, but it is simply getting transmuted. So that part, I thought it will be somewhat a eye opener for a new research. So that is why I included that, because it should not be missed at any point of time. So since it is the starting talk, so I thought we should have that research mode also kept open for it. So that is what I felt.
Okay, yeah. I mean, nice explanation. But having said that, this mechanism is very simple. We should accept the basic thing: energy can't be produced, can't be reduced, and I mean, can't be destroyed. So, if there is a molecule like helium producing hydrogen, means that excess of the electron or proton should separate as electron or proton, or should be released as heat. Or if there is another reaction where a smaller molecule becoming bigger molecule, means the heat is gone inside and heat has become one of the electron and proton and taken it forward. Because I think somebody can easily understand without even getting into this complex biological transmutation, taking plasma as universally a prime minimalist one, and the plasma can become an electron, neutron, proton. An electron, neutron can become an atom. They can become molecule. They can become complex organs, organ systems, and human being. That's why I asked that, because very nice talk. I don't want the talk to be diluted by something which is less necessary or something. The other thing is, in one place you have mentioned that lower biomagnetism causes bad thoughts. I mean, higher biomagnetism keeps us quite awake, makes us feel young, makes us feel healthy, helps in apoptosis, helps in organ regeneration, helps in disease-free life. Everything is fine. Lower biomagnetism again will result in like a lethargy, disease, maybe even a cancer or even a death. So even for bad thought, we need some energy. We need some Kayakalpa, which is, or the plasma, which is used in a wrong way. Instead of accepting lower biomagnetism causes bad thoughts, I will say lower biomagnetism will not cause good thoughts. It will result in lethargy and more of a very subdued, low level of life. That is one of my inputs. And you mentioned
actually, it is taken from Maharish's book only. I can send you that reference.
Okay. The other thing is about the genetic center. Maharishi clearly mentioned about the center point, which is like a center between top to bottom and also left to right. And you have very clearly brought something which most of us don't discuss frequently, which is not only the center of the body in just length and breadth, and also the weight. So if somebody is too obese or something like got some problem in the legs like elephantiasis or lymphatic problems or something like that, that can cause imbalance in genetic center. So regarding the weight, finding the center of the body by using the weight also, do you think that the good Kayakalpa practitioner should also be conscious about the weight, food intake, maintaining a good optimal BMI is a good one to have a better outcome?
Yeah, that is a good point to think actually. So I heard it from Maharishi's lecture only. So he mentioned it how the genetic center. When I was doing the research, so I heard it from directly from him. So probably your point is very valid. So we can do some research on this and find out what can be done. It's a good point. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Raviprakash. Nice presentation. Nice to bring some new concepts to the established one.
Thank you.
Everyone. It's a very interesting presentation, but in the interest of time, we would like to end the session now. Maybe continue the Q&A next week. If Doctor, you're available, Raviprakash, Doctor, next week for the Q&A. Okay. So together we'll have the Q&A next week, more on it. I know there is Julia put in more about how plasma works on the human body. We'll discuss more in the next coming week. Thank you very much again for your wonderful presentation. And I did have
Tarun.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Just to come up, we have so many new faces in our midst, and I don't know how many can contribute to the research of Kayakalpa on these lines, which was being exposed today. I want those who can contribute, who can join the research, to give your names to Vijay Lakshmi or Tarun, and we will proceed. And Tarun rightly said, we will continue it in the next week. Make it a point, Ravi, so that you come again next week.
Okay.
And I am